a massive difference because it's very you catch it with your eyes, you know. So if you see somebody come out and they bow and then they perform a technique, it looks good. It might have a certain form, but what I did notice is that every one of those really had when they went into a squat position, or whether they went, you know, or whatever they did with their feet and their hands, it really had good form. The good ones, but all of them, even the ones that were not, you know, meddling, they had really good form. The form was amazing, and crisp as they went into it. You know, it was.
Which of the strikes were all very crisp?
The strikes were crisp. The defensive actions were crisp. The squat positions, like I say, the stance. So if you, for example, when you have two judoka just come out, you know by their stance which one is going to be the dangerous one, because as soon as they bow on, and it's kind of a readiness, you know, and so stance is really important. And I think if I was going to compete in Kata, that I would work really hard on my stance to make it appealing, you know. And I think that's why we like seeing the Japanese perform, because they have such good stance. Everything is perfectly stanced.
No, I tend to agree with you. Very important, and I don't think some of the teams pay enough attention to those subtleties, and that's why the Japanese are so much better, because they pay attention to the minutia, all of the details. They make everything crisp, sharp, and you know, that it's the little things that really differentiate and allow them to rise to the top.
It is those little things.
It's the accumulation of all of these little things, and it's so smooth and crisp. He was very close on that. He was almost touching.
Yeah.
And on those two gun techniques from the front, you notice the feet don't move. It's only the hips to disarm. Tori does not move the feet. As I mentioned before, if you drop a weapon, 5-point deduction. I've actually seen in the disarming the weapon go flying across the mat. Of course, that's it's not good, and it's probably very embarrassing, but it does happen. It can happen.
And then I guess, I mean, I suppose it's, you used the analogy yesterday with ice skating, an analogy you used, but ice skating, if you do a double loop or whatever it is you do and you don't land it and you fall,
you're done.
You know it's done, but the most difficult thing, isn't it? You have to carry on. You can either call it quits and walk off, and that is the most difficult thing, isn't it? You know you've made a mistake. You think, oh well, but you've got to finish it off.
And we discussed that yesterday when there was a forgotten technique early in the kata. In your mind, you know that it's over.
Yeah.
So you have to really suck it up to get through the kata. And we saw that one team at the very end, their bow, they were like 4 feet away from the line. They were just totally had given up. They just lost all concentration. And it has to be just so disheartening.
Just have a look at this in slow motion, and we'll...
Oh, did you see how far away that knife was?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's definitely deduction.
Like you say, thank goodness, in front of you judges, that we don't do it in slow motion.
Very true. And very good that we don't see it over and over, because every time we see it, we see more mistakes.
There'll be more. We'd be in minus figures by the time we'd finished. Right, let's go over to mat number 1, tatami 1. Let's have a look at mat 1, see what we've got here happening now. Kimono kata. So we'll give you a chance to give us another look at the kimono kata.
Okay, we're looking at the last technique here, the attack with the sword. We'll get to see the retrieval of the weapons. Again, there's a specific way that we put down the weapons and retrieve them. So the judges right now are looking very closely at how he's handling the weapons, where he puts his hands, the direction of the blade, and so on. So when you're watching casually, you don't really think of that, but as a judge, those are all the little points that get scored. Okay, notice how Uke places the weapons for the bow. First, the sword, the knife. The top of the knife needs to align with the tsuba, the sword. Blades must point in the proper direction. Knife inside, both blades up. And notice when he bows, the tip of the sword should not tip up. Nicely done. And when we're placing the sword has a sheath, and it also usually has a tassel. So when you see Uke briefly put the tip of the sword down on the mat and slide the hand down, he's actually gathering the tassel.
So the belt is the sheath.
The belt is the sheath. And you'll see when they attack with the sword and also with the short knife, which is the knife in the belt, they simulate pushing a latch to release before they pull the weapon out, the sword out.
Small points.
Little things.
Yeah, little things.
And you can tend to see it because the tip of the sword will tilt just a little bit, or if you can't see the thumb. So those are all little nuances.
So we can see it from the beginning here now. So we've got Shane Rooney and Hugh Xiao Kang, Canada.
Okay, we'll be able to see placement of the weapons a little bit better here. Okay, so during the bow, putting down the weapons, as I mentioned before. If you have bad knees, this is really a tough kata on for Tori because Tori stays kneeling for a long time. So Uke is going to get up to place the weapons. Of course, Tori is still in seiza. They must remain inside the mat. He's going to lift up, turn so that the butt end is towards Shomen. Blades facing Uke. Now stepping into Shizen Hontai. Now your question before, they come within about 90 centimeters, they kneel, and then they slide in to a two-fist distance, and that's the starting distance. Notice the kick to the solar plexus before the wakigatame. Also notice that they're on live toes. Okay, that's important. We look for that. That's a 3-point deduction, a medium, if you go flat toes, unless you're in seiza. Notice they immediately come up to live toes. Because that's, you don't have any ability to really drive if you have flat toes. Yoko Uchi takes him down in the manner similar to katagatame, and then a strike to the solar plexus with the elbow. And now, from the rear, of course, we're still in Idori, the kneeling techniques. He's going to approach and do a bear hug around the top of the arms, and a strike to the groin.
Any particular reason that kimono kata is done off the knees? Why is it?
Well, again, it's an ancient kata, right?
Yeah.
It dates back from the 1800s when the warriors wore knives, swords, and were often in kneeling positions. So it's more a sign of the times and how the those that were fighting back then comported themselves. Whereas in modern times, the gun, the stick, the knife, standing techniques, a little bit more modern theme based on how society had evolved into the middle of the 20th century, and they felt that they needed to modernize it just because of that, because no one in the 1950s really carried around a long sword and a short sword, but yet you still needed to understand the principles of attack and defense with more modern weapons. So it makes perfect sense to me that they did that. Okay, so moving the knife to the side, it's a short sword now. And notice in Kimi no Kata, for wakigatame, uke taps Tori's leg, but haragatame, okay, it's being secured around the neck, and also the arm is in haragatame, so uke taps the mat. So you'll see that difference. Again, subtle. Now here they line up side by side, maybe 20 centimeters apart, very close. But it's an incredible spin on the left knee by Tori. And a strike, and then haragatame. Notice how uke taps the mat. Live toes. Now uke will go back to Toma position. Prior to going back and placing the knife for the standing unarmed techniques. And all this time, Tori is kneeling. It's really hard on the knees.
I was going to say, I have a false knee, and so I wouldn't be able to sit back on my heels.
Right now, Tori is just so happy that he can get off his knees. At least that was my feeling.
Yeah. I was going to say, direct communication there somewhere.
So you notice his first technique is identical to the kneeling technique, of course, in the standing position. It differs here in the second technique, which is a sleeve grab. And osotogari. Uppercut, wakigatame. Ukigoshi.
Can you do
defense.
Can you do it the other side, or is it only
one side?
Only one side.
Only one side.
Yeah.
Do it to the wrong side, you're probably talking a big mistake.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah. It's interesting. That kick is the same kick as in Goshinjutsu, but the response is different. So if you're competing in both, it can be very confusing sometimes. You can get it reversed in your mind. And if you do, unfortunately, it's a forgotten technique.
You've got to get your kumikata head on.
I really enjoy this kata as a practitioner when I practice it, because as I was telling you earlier today, one of the things that's a benefit is the muscle memory that you get from all of the attacking and defending. Eventually, you don't even think about it; you just react, and that's really the point where you want to achieve. Because in real life, if you're attacked, you don't stop and think about, how am I going to respond to this? No. You have to just respond. And it really helps build your reactions, your reflexes. Wonderful katas. even if you never have to use it. Another subtlety with Kimi no Kata is that you may or may not have noticed, but the strikes, fist strikes, in Kimi no Kata are always with the palm up. In Goshin Jutsu, the strikes are always with the palm down. And so those are subtleties. However, if you perform both, sometimes it can be confusing.
Yeah, get confused.
But of course, it comes into the scoring. So that would be a medium 3-point mistake if you got that wrong. Notice how the sword tilted. He was releasing the clasp on the sword, so that's an indicator that he did that. Now he's going to extract it completely, point the tip right at the eyes of Tori. And the reason for that is that so Tori is looking straight down the blade and doesn't see the size of the blade. Retrieving it, stepping back, sheathing. The closing ceremony. And the scoring ends.
So I'm just looking down now just to see if we've got where we have got in Kimi no Kata, the Japanese pairing. Yes, they are a bit further down. So we've got a while to wait. Actually, they're in the second half from about 11 o'clock. So we'll catch those a little bit later. There's two different times they've got to perform each kata, haven't they? Everybody has to perform it twice. Once in the preliminary rounds and once in the final. You've got to do it all over again. No scores carried through. This is all about qualification. What other sport can we think of that has to qualify? It's just about qualifying first.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I am as well. I was just trying to think there. I was wondering whether it was qualification in something like gymnastics, but it's not really, is it?
The only thing that I can think of, and it's not really qualification, but in like I said yesterday, in figure skating, you've got the preliminaries that you have to perform.
But their scores don't cross over.
But their scores don't cross over. And then you have the more artistic portion.
Yes.
It's really amazing to see this kata performed with as a demonstration with real weapons. It's always fun to see that.
When you say real weapons, you mean weapons as in sword and knife, yeah.
And you don't want to miss.
No.
But it's impressive in a demonstration. notice in that technique, flat feet, but arm lock. So there are a wide variety of strikes in these katas that you don't really learn as a younger judoka when you're competing, because it's not allowed in Shiai competition. But when you start practicing kata, that's when you start learning how to handle the weapons and use the weapons, and it's an integral part of judo. So I'm glad that there's a lot of crossover between Shiai and kata. I think it really
Certainly,
rounds out
yeah,
someone's background in judo.
without a doubt. Well, it certainly gives, you know, mine kind of came from the other way, but you know, to get an understanding of the principles and things like that, you know, and I can't push enough how important. I mean, they have the principles of movement, balance, action, reaction, form. You know, it's all things that we need in order to execute the techniques properly. And you know, we talk about the flow. And I think the flow, if you see a good judo player, they flow. I always remember Angelo Parisi, the dear friend of mine, Angelo Parisi. You watch him do judo. I mean, where he literally flowed, and he could go from right to left, and he did it quite naturally. You know, he didn't really understand how naturally he did that. You know, and yes, he was taught left and right, and I know that a lot of people are taught, you know, you have got to do it on the left. I need to see that on the left or on the other side. But I think he was encouraged just to move, and his natural application of certain techniques left and certain techniques right were a little bit different, but they were very smooth.
Well, it not only looks beautiful, but I believe it also opens up a lot more possibilities when you're moving and flowing left and right, different techniques, rather than just locking in with one grip.
Yeah, and one, you know, technique wonder. And I talked to Yamashita Sensei, and very, again, dear friend of mine, and he said that I asked him, what judo player do you look up to, respect, you know? And he said Angelo Parisi. And it was because of the fluidity. He said just the movement was natural.
And it is so important in kata. It's hard to put your finger on it, but it's one of those.
Well, you see it, don't we? I mean, we're watching there, and well, you'll go quiet, and, you know, and I'll go quiet and the reason is we don't want to talk over something that's moving and quite natural.
That kick missed by far. Looked like he was right between the knees.
And this is what I was talking about the striking, the kicks, the execution of the you know, I just recently commentated the Sambo, and it's kind of a mix of there's kicking, striking, there's throwing, and you know, and some of them could not kick. And I was doing the commentary with the karate guy, and you know, of course, he wasn't totally dissing it, but you could see that he was thinking that's not, you know, how it's done, and the throwing parts as well. Some of those weren't working properly, you know. So we can see it straight away, you know, a strong kick there, where, you know, and one that would really do some damage, and with power on. You know, you can see it with power. Same with the punching as well. Some of the punching was not up to scratch. You know, it wasn't powerful.
Well, that's really the essence of these katas, and that is where the focus should be, on the crispness of the strikes,
and the application,
the striking the correct target, and the proximity. So it's all important
Yeah.
to put together, and that's what we work on the most when we practice these katas, are the actual strikes and the blocks and the responses. And it takes time, a lot of practice. Sometimes in practice, getting whacked with a weapon.
Sure.
Hopefully not in competition, because it's a big deduction. Unfortunately, in a competition, I saw a woman lean into the crack in the back of the fist. She caught it right in the nose and ended up with a big bloody nose.
You can't stop a bloody nose, can you?
It's hard.
Just one of those, isn't it?
So that's a big miss. That's a 5-point deduction if she could even continue. But
well, I was going to say, the thing is, right, if you get a cut like that as well, it's the most difficult thing to stop, especially with on the head. And
you have to stop the blood and clean up the blood, of course.
Well, you've got to stop the blood. And, of course, when we see it in Shiai and when we see it in a competition, because it's the head and the heart's pumping, head, because it's tight on it's the most difficult. That's why we see them come back and they're all taped up. Because, you know, a couple of, they have 2 visits with the same cut to the doctors, and then it's the doctor's discretion whether they carry on. So can you imagine Olympic Games and you lose because you get a cut? And same here, wouldn't it? I mean, it'd be all that practice all gone.
That's right, yeah. And not only are they difficult to stop the bleeding, but they're difficult to bandage because you
can't do it.
Yeah.
No, well, and especially nose. You know, they how do you stop a nose?
Well, they put in little tampons, but they don't always stay in.
No, they don't.
I remember at the Olympics, I think it was 2 Olympics ago, one of the competitors, I think it was the U.S. competitor, had a cut on his head and was wrapped up.
Yeah, mummified.
Mummified.
No, I always say, you know, he's going to come out mummified, and out they come, you know, just completely mummified. Some of them look disgustingly uncomfortable.
Oh, that has to really
what you're breathing, can you imagine?
Your breathing, sometimes your sight.
Yeah.
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 Luckily, though, I haven't seen blood in kata except for that one time.
Yeah. And so what did they do?
Oh, they had to stop the match, clean up the blood. They had to stop the bleeding, and they did continue. It was a big mistake. It wasn't an international competition, but I believe that her nose was broken. So it was pretty good of her to finish the kata.
Yeah.
Seoinage type rollover and a punch to the groin.
If it's okay with you, I'm just going to leave you for 5 minutes alone for the next one. So you can talk through that if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely.
I'm making a visit just for 5 minutes, and I will be back.
Okay.
I'm not disappearing. But we'll wait till this one finishes. Yeah, I mean, we could see, can't we, quite clearly there. I mean, that's unfortunate for him that we saw it in slow motion, you know, but no power to the kick.
And that last kick, no power, but he did make contact, so that was a deduction.
Number 1, Kimeno Kata, preliminary group 1. Sunday Shin, Johannes Kruger, Germany.
I'm going to leave Alan just for 1 minute.
Number 2, Judo Kata, juniors, preliminary group 2. For Judo Ki Vines, for Rio. Republic of Korea.
The actual distance to lay down the weapons is specified. However, as I mentioned earlier, they have to stay on the mat. So in this particular case, the shortest distance is to the edge of the mat. So that's where the weapons are placed. This initial position, the 2 fist distance, is called Hizazume. It's common to these kneeling techniques. Notice that this particular uke struck the solar plexus of Tori with the knee as opposed to the ball of the foot. Both of those strikes are allowed in this kata. So if you aren't quite as flexible and can't get the ball of the foot up to the solar plexus, you're allowed to use the knee. Notice the flat feet to finish the technique, but yet they go back to live toes. Strike to the solar plexus with the elbow, open hand, fingers together. We look for those things. Fingers are apart, you're going to get a minor deduction. Notice that uke goes back to the previous position, pauses, and then circles up to toma. In between the attacks unarmed versus the attacks with the knife. In every transition to go either place a weapon down or to retrieve a weapon, uke first goes to toma, 1.2 meters in front of, and kneels in front of Tori, facing Tori prior to exchanging the weapons. Now moves up into the engagement position. Sukake, a thrust with the knife. Another subtle difference between Kime and no Kata and Goshin Jutsu is on that thrust with the knife. In Kime no Kata, you thrust with the right hand and step with the left. And in Goshin Jutsu, you thrust with the right hand as you step with the right foot. So some subtle differences. Okay, the knife was used as a short sword when it was in the belt. Now it's placed back in the gi as the dagger. Okay, one of my favorite techniques in this kata. They're side by side, and Tori's response has to be lightning quick. Strike to the uppercut and then haragatame. But he has to do a 180-degree pivot on his left knee and keep his leg in a position where it's not going to get stabbed. So it's a tricky reaction, but it's beautiful to watch. Uke and Tori both rise together. See, he was off with that kick as well. A little low. Was a kick to the side of the knee, the outside of the knee, prior to the Osotogari. He deflects the strike, parries up into a choking position as Uke tries to retract his arm. Korea regime, notice that the forehead of Tori is at the back of the neck of Uke. And notice the difference in the kick between Kime and Goshin. Haragatana strike to the Uto. And as I mentioned earlier, notice the strikes in Kime. The fist, the palm is up during the strike, whereas in Goshin Jutsu, the palm is downward for the fist strikes. Easy to get confused if you do the two katas. In the first sword technique, Tori blocks Uke from extracting the sword and then goes into Kata Hajime. The second technique, Uke successfully draws the sword and points it right at the eyes of Tori, so Tori can't judge the length of the sword. And then he steps forward, Tori steps back. Of course, strikes Haragatame, controlling the head and the neck, as well as applying Haragatame to release the second hand holding the sword and then to eventually create submission. Notice that Tori took a step back. You see he's within around one step of the tape, because for the closing ceremony, he has to step back and be behind the tape or he'll lose points. Nicely done. Now the closing ceremony.
Tapis numéro 3, début des préliminaires du groupe 1, Itsutsuno Kata.
And that was Schillig and Kroger from Germany.
La tendance Judo Kata Juniors, preliminary group 2.
And coming up, we have Macconi, Barbara, and Calderini Maurizio from Italy. We have Barbara Macconi as Tori, and we have Maurizio as Uke.
Tatami 1, Hime no Kata, preliminaries group 1. Barbara Macconi, Maurizio Calderini.
So you might have a question as to how many in the preliminary rounds qualify for the finals. If you have 3 preliminary groups of 9 or 10 or 11. The top 3 from each qualify for the finals, so you end up with 9 participants in the finals. However, if you have fewer number of players and you have 2 groups, then typically you have still 3 from each. If you have 1 group, then you take the top 6 out of the preliminaries for the finals. So you can have 6 or 9 typically in the finals. A lot of competitors this year, so a lot of the katas we have 3 preliminary rounds or 3 preliminary groups. Notice Uke tapped Tori's leg, Wakigatame. Here's Haragatame. Note that Uke taps on the mat. Because Uke probably can't reach the knee because of securing of the lapel, the neck, as well as the arm for that particular armbar. Notice the transition to flat toes to apply the armbar. Tori also rotates the arm for the palm down so that the elbow is in the proper position for that armbar. It happens quickly.
Canada.
Looks like a little uncertainty there in taking the grip for a left COA type rollover. Dagger will be removed and will now become a short sword placed inside the belt. Blade up, blade must be up. Released and into kirikomi, a strike to the top of the head. Parting of the hair, I like to think of it. Placed back as a short sword and now moved back into the gi as the dagger. Here we'll see again Tori's 180-degree pivot on the left knee. Finished with Haragatame. tatame. It's probably one of the most difficult techniques in this kata to perfect is that very quick rotation to move out of the way of that dagger. Not only your body, but you have to also make sure that the knee isn't in line with the dagger or you're stabbed in the knee. So you have to do not only a 180-degree pivot, but you have to make sure that you're basically in a kurai-dori type position so that your knee is to the side and not vulnerable to being stabbed with that knife.
Tapis numéro 3, Itsuno Kata, préliminaire groupe 1. David Di Filippo, Christian Boisselet, France.
Again, they really need to pay attention to the strike distance, the strike target. Those are so critical in these katas, and we look very closely at that. If there's too much of a distance, medium mistake, 3 points. Off target, the same mistake. And it's difficult because you need to come close to contact, but as we mentioned earlier, if you do contact, it's a deduction. So you have a very small window of strike and target without actually making contact. There's hours of practice. And unfortunately, a few times you do make contact. I know my kata partner always kids me about the groin kicks because one time he leaned into me and I made contact and he never let me forget it. Jokingly, of course. Notice the forehead in the back of the neck to secure the choke. And the response to the kick here is another kick to uke, whereas in Goshin Jutsu, you rotate the ankle, break the ankle, and drive uke backwards into the mat. So, same kick, different response.
Colombia.
In Kimi no Kata, on these knife strikes, the response is a strike to the uto, between the eyes up at the brow with the palm up. Whereas in Goshin Jutsu, the strikes look similar, but they are uppercuts, and really the contact area there is the chin, not the uto. So that's a major difference between the two katas. It's subtle, but you'll notice that. And welcome back, Neil.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for holding the fort. So have we missed anything?
Several teams, nothing specific. I just tried to add a little background to some of these techniques.
And some of the differences between, like you say, there's similarities, aren't there, between the two katas? But
Exactly. Similarities and differences.
yeah.
And I was mentioning the strikes, the knife attacks. The strikes look very similar. The difference is in Kime, again, the palm is up and the strike is to the uto, right, the brow, whereas in Goshin Jitsu, a similar strike would be an uppercut. And so in that case, the target's different, but the palm is still up. The other strikes, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Kime, palm up, Goshin, palm down.
$489.5 for the Germans.
I love the handling of the weapons. When it's done correctly, it can be very, very beautiful, very smooth.
You were saying earlier that you keep saying to me, look at how the palm off the weapons, how it passes it back, or how she passes it back. But it's the subtlety was actually I couldn't see how they passed it back at certain times.
Well, you can tell with the tip of the gun and the tip of the knife because it goes directly into the gi, and that was the intent, so that it wasn't clumsy. You didn't have to flip it over. People were flipping the gun over right to left and front to back to put it properly into the gi, and that was a little awkward. So it makes sense that you hand it over in a way that it can go right into the gi. Gives you less to think about.
That 489 there by the Germans is the highest score in this group, group one so far. Is it going to change with the Italians, Calderini and Macconi?
Numéro 3, Kata, il est éliminé groupe 1.
So we'll see what the Italians do, and gives us an idea, doesn't it, as to how this is being scored. And I'm not sure. Have they been doing Kimono Kata on another tatami as well?
I believe they are. I believe there are at least two
groups,
if not three groups.
Yeah.
Probably two groups of Kime. Yeah, there's a group one. Germany, Canada, Italy is the order of the first three.
Yes, Tatami 2 has got the Japanese. I'm not sure if we're down there at the moment. Can we just go over to mat number 2? Just have a look at mat number 2, see what we've got on. So, Judo Kata. Still on the Judo Kata, and we are on the Colombia, Valencia, and Galvez. So we've still got 3 more to go in the Judo Kata before it comes to the Kimono Kata group 3. So there are 3 groups.
3 groups, okay.
Yes, 3 groups. And then we'll have a chance to see the Japanese pairing. Let's just have a little look at the, just so that we can... for the ones that didn't watch yesterday, so it gives us a chance to have a look at the Judo Kata.
And this is the junior group 2, so these are 21 and under, and we didn't see an awful lot of the junior
It was just Nagano Kata, wasn't it, yesterday?
katas, but the juniors can be very, very good. Some of their kata is just really exceptional, so I love to watch the juniors because those are the competitors of the future.
Yeah, and you said that they've introduced as well a cadet
Starting in January,
Yeah,
there'll be a cadet division, under 18.
Is there going to be an under 18 in the World Championships as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next year. And I love to see as we mentioned yesterday, the young kids getting involved in Kata. And by giving them this avenue of competition, I think it's really going to help promote the growth of Kata.
Yeah, because not everybody wants to do Shio, do they? You know, it's not.
Not everybody is really capable.
No. True.
So this is a wonderful avenue for competition, but also incredibly important elements of judo. And in my view, you need to do both to really round out your judo background.
Valencia and Galvez then complete their Judo Kata. Looking now, there's three other. Yes, there are three others, and then we come to the Kimono Kata. So we'll stay on here. We'll have a look at one all the way through. Next up is the Italian pair, Sarah Orlando against Giulia Bezzi of Italy. See there the IJF score, 347. We'll have a little look to see what the Korea and Spanish pairings got. So for the ones that weren't here yesterday, Judo Kata.
Julia Bezzi, Sarah Orlando, Italy.
So Judo Kata, form of gentleness, would you explain it like that?
Gentleness of giving way. Ju is the fundamental principle of judo, and it's very well demonstrated in this kata, which is performed very slowly, very deliberately. There are no throws in this, but as we mentioned yesterday, it's also used for physical education, practiced in schools in Japan and all over the world.
That was his main. That was his main purpose behind it.
Right, and you notice that it really pushes your flexibility. There are a lot of different rotations of the upper body, left and right. Most of the submission techniques are taking uke to the rear. It really, in the lifts, they look easy, but they're very difficult. And very stressful on the back, as we mentioned yesterday.
Yeah.
If you are not physically fit, you can really injure your back doing some of these lifts. So you want to be in good shape for this kata.
And we were saying about the smooth transition as well from one technique to another.
And I was mentioning yesterday, it's very important. There are a lot of transitions of control, back and forth between uke and tori. Very smooth, and it's very important when we're watching this that they don't anticipate, because if they anticipate, then it just looks like a dance. It looks choreographed.
Yeah, we said that yesterday, didn't we? That there's just that little bit more that's needed. We saw some beautiful examples yesterday, Japanese and the Romanians, wasn't it, that were particularly graceful.
And the German team.
And the German team. The German team were amazing, yeah, they were.
It's such a graceful kata, but it's very difficult to perfect. It takes hours and hours of practice. You have to have a good instructor, a good partner, and hours and hours of reps and practice to make it look so easy and elegant, but it's not. This one is interesting. Several pivots. The pivots are all according to a certain way of pivoting. Tori is trying to throw uke. Uke is resisting with the hand in the small of the back. There's a dynamic tension. And notice how close the attacks are to the target. If you anticipate, you lose points, of course. Look how nice and straight. Oh,
just lost it a little bit there.
She lost her balance. Yeah, that's a 5-point deduction right there. Unfortunate. Loss of control, loss of balance. Unfortunately, it does happen to the best of us.
Yeah, they'll be kicking themselves when they finish this, because that was good, wasn't it, up to then? I thought they had a nice shape.
Flexibility at the waist, hips, left to right, backward. Notice the submission, just a slight, one tap, not two taps. And when the submission is with the foot, it's just a slight movement backward, very subtle. Spacing seems a little close. They seem a little close to each other. Some of the techniques, that's also taken into account in the scoring. Engagement distance is one of the criteria.
And positioning on the mat.
And location on the mat, positioning on the mat, correct. Quite a gap there in the strike. She might have been rattled from that mistake that she made earlier.
I think so. You know, sometimes it can go away from you, can't it?
It has to be so hard to finish a kata when you've made a mistake that may cost you. It has to be just so disheartening.
Well, I suppose now these will be hoping that this will be enough to qualify. From each group, how many people from each group?
So we have 3 groups, so there'll be 3 from each group.
Yeah.
So there'll be 9 in the finals.
Well, and then, you know, they'll be hoping that they qualify within the group and then go through and put it right in the final.
With this many competitors, it's so much harder. If you only have one group of 10, then the top 6 go to the finals. But if you have 3 groups of 10, only the top 3 in your preliminary round go. So you really have to nail it in the preliminaries to be in the top 3, or else
it's game over. Early bath. Yeah, well, they'll kick themselves about that. That was a loss of balance there, and
I think it affected the rest of the kata.
Yeah, it did do. Sarah Orlando and Guila Bezzi, then of Italy. I think coach there is saying, a bit of a shame.
That's when having a good coach really counts, to really console you when something like that happens after so much preparation, so many hours, weeks and days and years, all for this one moment. You just hope you don't make a mistake.
Next up is, well, it's still scored high. So, you know, that, so reasonably high there, and it's above, I'm not sure about Korea and Spain, so if we have a look at this here and wait and see when it comes up here, the preliminaries for the Judo Kata juniors, and then just see what Korea and Spain achieved. We've got Lee Delin and Emma Delin of France. Okay, a big reception there as they come out. We'll have a look at those and then we'll nip over and have a look at another kata, see how they're doing, how they're progressing.
Emma Delin, Léa Delin, France. Tatami 1, Kimi no Kata, preliminaries, Group 1. Grégory Marquez, Stéphane Vega, France.
I tell you what I'm going to do, Alan, is so Christina Piccola, who's my dear friend, is going to come in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get her in first of all to go with you over these next two, and then I'm going to come in and take her place.
Okay.
All right. So this is Christina and Alan. Christina, you just come in here. You're going to just do two of the katas with Alan. I'm going to turn you off first. Just do these two, and then I'll come in, and you can rest.
Okay, very good. I want to welcome Christina, taking Neil's place. Christina Piccola, who is the Vice President of the EJU Kata Commission. So welcome, and for taking Neil's place for several katas here.
Thank you for the welcoming. As you've seen, it's quite different to look at the juniors today comparing to the seniors. I don't know if you've really seen that. They're a little bit more impatient, as you see. It's lovely to see the fantastic techniques, but...
Right. They, but there are some juniors that are really good, so it's great that they have the opportunity to compete at this level. And I'm also thrilled that next year that the cadets are going to be added, because it's a great way to allow the juniors to compete at this level, but also it provides a lot of role model type action for the younger kids. They see that they have an avenue of competition.
Yeah, and if you, as you know, in Europe, I'm the vice president for the education, and it's all about education. So we already, for 2 years ago, we started with the cadets, and including the adapted judo to the European Kata Championships.
Oh, is that right? That's great.
And that's amazing to see, because Kata is so much about education and kuzushi, how to move. So I think we are so proud about diversity in judo.
And it's wonderful that the adaptive judo is being added to kata, because it's a wonderful way for everybody to be able to have access to judo.
And community, if you see today, it's totally different from the veterans. It's calmer in here, it's many countries following their athletes, and it's crowded. If you look, the spectator seats, it's full.
It really is.
And I'm so glad for the participants, because this is something you want to have when you're practicing so much at home and you have so many people watching your performance.
It has to be exciting. What a contrast to the COVID years when we had empty stadiums all over.
Exactly.
It has to be so difficult to perform to an empty stadium, but to have a crowd, especially if you are the home country, it just has to be exhilarating to have that support.
Yes. And here we have this couple from France, and you can see the movement is so, it's like an art.
You can really see the smoothness and the fluidity of some of these competitors that are really good. It's beautiful to watch, very graceful.
And the slowness to put your partner down to the mat again, because that's really difficult in Judo Kata. Sometimes you forget breathing because it's so much movement.
It's so important because it's very easy to run out of breath, and then that really affects your kata.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at this moment, you see, not general, but some couples have a tendency to speed up the tempo, because it's like, no, we have just 3 techniques less.
And that does tend to be the reaction of less experienced teams, as they do perform too fast.
Exactly. And I remember I had this group, I actually started Judo Kata with beginners, women plus 40. And when we, 3 years later, have been training, we actually had a clock to see the 6 minutes or 7 minutes, because we had a tendency in the end of the...
What a great way to train. Yeah.
To see that you don't get it too fast, because Judo Kata is so much about gentleness.
It really is. Although in the self-defense katas, they have a tendency to go too fast, and that really makes the strikes off target and not really effective. But even more so in Ju, as you said, it upsets the grace and beauty of the kata if you rush it.
And it's so much about details.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
As you see, this technique they're doing now, it should not work if you don't push your partner away from you. And now it's coming again. And we have this joke to remember this technique. It's like scissors. So the scissors should be in the eyes.
Right. We, those of us that are fans of Star Trek, call it the Spock strike.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you teach children, you have to rename them so the symbolic, so they remember it, because it can be too difficult with the Japanese names.
Sure. It makes perfect sense.
Look at this. Thank you.
Very nice. I noticed the beauty of the bows, the straight back, the straight neck.
And that's actually difficult to remember. Look at this. The importance there is that she doesn't lift her hip too early. She has to wait for the balance, so it comes in the right time. Sometimes you can see they're too eager to lift. The uki lifts the legs too fast, and then the technique is not correct.
And also, isn't it true that you don't want uke to arch too much?
No,
to go
no way. It's all about control.
Because some have the tendency to try to do that are
Yes.
less experienced. The other thing I was talking about with Neil yesterday is, in this kata, it's so important not to anticipate. You have to wait until you are actually, till control is taken from you. And if you anticipate, then it doesn't look realistic. It looks more choreographed. So we have here the U.S. team, Baskerud Bryn and Baskerud Haley, sisters and twins.
Have you noticed that there are about 8 twin couples competing in kata? Isn't that amazing?
I noticed that, and it is amazing. I mean, I can see brothers and sisters, or sisters, but twins. And identical twins at that.
I think we should make some research about this. How come so many twins start?
Or maybe have a division for twins.
Would be nice.
No, I did notice that, though. It's
this technique sometimes is interesting because if you haven't practiced it, you don't understand that when you're bowing or pushing your tori forwards, then you have the uke pushes the tori backwards.
back with the hand. Yeah,
Exactly.
sometimes that's missed, right?
Yeah. Like this one. This is really difficult if you don't have the breaking the balance right. And look, she was a little bit too fast. Lifting her.
And you have to have a very supple back. It's very hard on the back. It can be very hard on the back if you do it incorrectly. It looks very easy, but it really isn't. It
is really hard.
Really exercises so many of the muscle groups. Which is the intent. It's meant to also be used as a stretching exercise and for physical fitness.
Yes.
It can be done without a judogi, which is a benefit for practicing anywhere.
Yes, and sometimes I explain to people who are not judoka, I say this is kind of yoga with a partner.
Well, that's a good way of putting it.
Because you're stretching so many muscles, your arms and...
I'll have to steal that from you.
Yeah.
Yoga with a partner, I like that.
Yeah. because look here, now she really pushes her
Right.
until the limit, so she had to turn around.
You just stretch so many muscle groups.
Exactly, and here stretching your shoulder and back. It's incredible. I stop breathing when I say this. I have to remember. This is like the sun is rising and now the sun goes down. And this is really hard to do if you haven't practiced this a long. Look,
Yes, it
so
is.
beautiful, going down and then
Coming up, the
Yeah.
dynamic tension between the
Exactly.
two. It really is a beautiful kata. Artistic.
we have some athletes in Sweden. They do it with classical music.
Is that right?
Yes, and it so makes a huge impact when you have the right speed and the classical music.
They practice to it. Did they ever demonstrate to
They
classical
demonstrate
music?
it too, yes.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
And that is what I love about judo, because I started with with judo kata when I had trained judo for 35 years. And then I said to somebody, in what sport do you feel like a beginner 35 years later if you have been doing shiai and
Especially
judo kata?
at the elite level.
Exactly. If you play tennis, you play tennis. If you play volleyball, you play volleyball. But in judo, it's like there's like second life.
Exactly. And even as an elite competitor, we all get older, and your career eventually ends in competition unless you go up the veterans path. But then that gives you the opportunity to expand your knowledge base, and you can train and compete in kata with no age limit,
Exactly.
as long as you're physically able.
And did you see she really did good to have the hip close to her, the tori,
Pulled in tight.
pull in tight the hip, and that's crucial in this technique. If you don't do it, it's so hard to lift it.
The lifts look easy, but they really are difficult.
Yeah, because it's so much about balance, to have the right direction.
Exactly. You have to have good hips to do those ukigoshi lifts.
Yes.
I speak from experience. Such a graceful.
Exactly. And you can't hesitate, because if you hesitate, it's going totally wrong direction.
Exactly. And I also love the understated submissions, the maitas, not too hard tap, just a nice little tap or just a slight step back with the foot.
Yes, we saw this before. It's like, it's about bending. Now the detail to take your elbow back.
Always control.
Exactly.
Transfer uke to tori to uke without anticipation.
Now the scissors. But I think it's so amazing if I see Europe that there are so many countries have started kata seminars for children, like 10 years and up. And it's growing. This community is really growing.
It really is. I know in the U.S. At the grassroots level, we are encouraging the youngsters to come practice kata and to compete. And so we have little kids that are years old, 12 years old, that are competing in junior divisions, and maybe they only do the first 3 techniques or the first set or or whatever, but it gets them to practice and to compete.
This was beautiful.
Yeah, and some of the little ones are very good. They really have
Look
promise.
Yeah, focus.
So focused.
And
We were talking yesterday about how you really have to put yourself in a zone and just tune out all of the distractions.
here is so important that Tora bends her knees and not to block. And here, not going too fast. The reaction. 1, 2. It's beautiful.
It really is. It really is.
So glad to have you here. How long has it been since we've been together? Like, it's 2 years already, isn't it? So
It was in Abu Dhabi.
it was in Abu Dhabi,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yeah, it was. So I have been going from one of the katas to the other, and I don't think we've covered Katamana Kata today. We did it yesterday, but just give us a little bit about history. I mean, your history of you doing the Katamana Kata.
As you see, Katamana Kata is like the syllabus of Nevasa.
Yeah.
And I'm so impressed of the juniors here because it's really high level. And actually, you know, what is most difficult in Katamana Kata is that the escapes, the different direction of escapes. I remember first time doing kimono kata, I was so surprised about the weapons, that we could allow weapons in judo.
So, yeah. I can't imagine seeing it with real weapons.
Oh,
but
my God.
we were talking, Alan was saying that sometimes they do it with real weapons.
Yeah, we had one guy in Sweden for his third Dan grade examination. Okay.
No,
no,
it didn't work out good. No.
Catégorie Kata, junior, préliminaire groupe 1, Sofia Borges, Elisa Tonese.
That is Judo Kata Juniors Preliminaries Group 2. Green Baskerwood, Haley Baskerwood, USA. 1, Kime no Kata. Preliminaries, Group 1 finish.
Tapis numéro 1, Kimi no Kata, préliminaire du groupe 1 terminé.
Tatami 1, Kata no Kata, Juniors, Preliminaries, Group 2. Giada Gazzetta, Francesco Viva, Italy. Battle 2, Judo Kata Juniors Preliminaries, Group 2, finish.
Tapis numéro 2, Judo Kata Junior, préliminaire du groupe 2, terminé. tapis numéro 2, Kimino Kata, début des préliminaires du groupe 3. Shane Legros, Dan Rousseau, Canada. Tapis numéro 3, Kata Kata Junior, préliminaire du groupe 1. Danil Tomoshenko, Ivan Transadov, Haïtien.
Tatami 1, Tatami Kata Juniors, preliminaries, Group 2. Belen Ortiz, Andrea Ortiz, Spain.
Tapis numéro 2, Kata, préliminaire groupe 3. Takaishi Kenji, Uematsu Koji, Japon. Tapis numéro 3, Kata Junior, préliminaire groupe 1, Juan Garcia.